As human behavior goes, the activity of play is arguably among the most intriguing things that we do. Although it is something that all people in all times have done, there is something wonderful and even mysterious about it. Why do we play? It is difficult to say. On one hand, it is an activity that is characterized by an absolute freedom. We don't engage in play because we have some clear purpose in mind. We do it because we want to. On the other hand, there is also something about it that seems almost necessary. Indeed, the fact that it happens spontaneously suggests that there is something within, some inner law that compels us to play, almost as if it were necessary to human flourishing. As it turns out, a great deal of research in recent years supports this idea. It indicates that play is absolutely crucial to the development and the long-term well-being of children. With that in mind, I want to spend some time looking at the current societal trends in play and how this essential human behavior is faring in the modern world. First, let's start with the big picture, the overall trends. According to various studies, since the mid-1950s, there has been a steady decline in the amount of time that children spend in play. To be certain, threats to play have always been present. In every time, there have been sad realities that impact the plight of the children for the worse. From war to exploitation to extreme poverty, children have often been robbed of the benefit of a normal life. Having said that, there are important differences between what we face today and the historical threats to play. Whereas former threats have largely been more localized in time and place, the issues that we're dealing with today seem more pervasive. Also, unlike the undesirable realities of poverty and war, many of the forces behind the current trends are at least superficially good. This makes the risk that they pose that much more difficult to grapple with. One of the first things to note is the extent of this shift. Far from being limited to a certain nation or culture, the move away from play appears to be truly global. A study based on information provided by families of 2,400 children in 16 different nations found similar patterns the world over. Findings indicated that a rapid and steady decline in the playtime had taken place far and wide in recent decades. According to the authors of this study, the drop in the last 20 years or so is attributable to a range of causes. The first factor that they mentioned, something that will come as little surprise, is the worldwide explosion in the availability and popularity of the technological distractions. It almost goes without saying that ours is a world that is inundated in technology. Today, even in remote rural areas, it is not uncommon to see families with a television or individuals, young and old, carrying smartphones. It doesn't take an astute cultural observer to see that television viewing, video games, and surfing the internet have co-opted a great deal of our time, even for the youngest among us. Another thing that was cited in this multinational study were extracurricular activities that compete for limited time. Spontaneous, self-directed play is often displaced by other kinds of activities that closely resemble it. For example, the time formerly allotted to play is increasingly devoted to organized activities, often adult-directed activities, from sports to music lessons. As valuable as these activities may be, what often happens is that they leave little opportunity or energy for self-directed play. This is significant because child-directed play offers certain benefits that are absent in other forms of formalized activity. According to Peter Gray, a professor of psychology at Boston College, parents bear a good deal of responsibility in the changes that have taken place in the life and the schedules of their own children. He cites a study that reveals the following. The researchers found that compared to 1981, children in 1997 spend less time in play and have less free time. They spent 18% more time in school, 145% more time doing schoolwork, 168% more time shopping with their parents. The research found that, including computer play, children in 1997 spent only about 11 hours per week at play. To lend some perspective, during that period, the total time that children spent in play declined by an estimate of 25%. In seeking to make some sense of this data, it is fair to say that the decline in playtime for children has not entirely been the result of conscious decisions. Indeed, often it appears that reductions in play are mostly attributable to changing in priorities. One trend that bears considering is the loss of playtime brought about by increased time devoted to structured academic work. As David Elkind notes, school administrators and teachers, frequently backed by goal-oriented politicians and parents, broadcast the not-so-subtle message that these days play seems superfluous, that at bottom play is for slackers, that if kids must play, they should at least learn something while they're doing it. As one would expect, this shift in our thinking has resulted in scheduling with a diminished place for play. According to researcher Thomas Armstrong, play is becoming more of an endangered species in early childhood programs as academic demands are increasing. This assertion is borne out by a 2008 study which reported that as many as 30,000 schools had eliminated recess to provide more time for academic instruction. A 2005 study conducted by the International Play Association indicates that approximately 40% of schools in the United States had in recent years either eliminated it or greatly reduced the amount of time devoted to recess. The biggest reason for this change was that more time was given to preparation for testing. The increasing emphasis put on so-called high-stakes testing has understandably added fuel to this trend. So, as we have seen in recent years, there are a number of factors which, taken together, have resulted in a dramatic decline in the time that children spend in play. What we should make of this depends entirely on the significance of play in human life and development. If it is merely a superfluous activity, we should be no more alarmed at, say, changing tastes in fashion. If, on the other hand, play is beneficial or even vitally important, these changes should concern us greatly.